The sun was burning hot on the cracked ground of Karnath, a desert world where water was more valuable than gold. The dusty wind carried the dry smell of sand and metal. At the center of the main town, the punishment square stood empty, except for a small crowd gathering in silence in the middle of the square. A young girl was pulled forward by two tall figures wearing black uniforms. The girl's name was Luma. Her clothes were torn, and her skin was dusty and dry from days in the sun. She was only 12, but her eyes showed fear and sadness beyond her years. Luma's small hands were tied behind her back. She looked at the crowd, hoping someone would help her, but no one moved. The people around her had seen this many times before. Stealing water was a serious crime on Karnath. The law was clear, and the punishment was cruel. One of the uniformed enforcers, a tall, sharp-faced alien called a Tarnuk, stepped forward and spoke in a cold voice. Luma is accused of stealing purified water from a merchant, the law says. Her right arm must be cut off to pay for her crime. Luma swallowed hard. She had stolen only a small flask of water, enough to drink because she was so thirsty. But the laws on Karnath were not made for mercy. Water belonged to the rulers and merchants. The poor had to obey. The crowd watched without speaking. The desert sun made their faces hard and tired. Some children in the crowd looked away, afraid. Some adults showed sadness, but did nothing. The law was too strong. Just as the executioner raised a sharp blade, ready to begin, a voice called out. It was calm but firm. Wait. The crowd turned to see a man step into the square. He was a stranger, wearing dusty clothes and carrying a small bag. His skin was pale compared to the locals, and his hair was messy. But there was something about him that made people stop and listen. The man's name was Bran. He looked at the enforcers without fear. This girl is only a child. She doesn't deserve this punishment. The lead Tarnuk narrowed his eyes. This is not your place, human. The law is the law. She must be punished. Bran shook his head. I understand your law, but I am willing to pay for the water she took. Let her go. There was a murmur in the crowd. No one had ever tried to buy mercy here before. The enforcers looked at each other, unsure. The lead Tarnuk spoke again. You say you will pay. How much? Bran reached into his bag and pulled out a small metal coin. It was old and worn, but clearly valuable. He placed it on the ground in front of the judge. This is enough to buy her water and more. Let her live. The judge looked at the coin and then at Bran. The crowd held its breath. After a long moment, the judge nodded slowly. Very well. The girl will not lose her arm today, but you must take responsibility for her. If she breaks the law again, you will face the punishment. Bran agreed without hesitation. Luma looked up at Bran, surprised. Her heart beat fast. Was this man really going to save her? The enforcers untied her hands. She rubbed her sore wrists and stayed close to Bran, feeling safe for the first time in many days. Bran looked at the crowd. No child should live in fear of water. Some people nodded quietly. Bran turned back to Luma. Come, let's find you a safe place. Luma followed him, still unsure but hopeful. The sun was still high, but for the first time, Luma felt a little less alone. The heat of the Karnath sun was still strong as Bran and Luma left the punishment square behind. The town was quiet, but tension still hung in the air like the dust that never settled. People glanced at them from doorways and alleys, whispering. Some looked at Bran with suspicion. Humans were rare here, and they did not always bring good news. Luma walked close to Bran's side. She still did not understand why the human had saved her. Why had he stepped in to stop her punishment? She was used to fear, to silence. But now, with Bran beside her, she felt something new. Hope. Bran's eyes scanned the town as they moved through the narrow streets. We need to find water, he said quietly, and a safe place for you to rest. Luma nodded, but she did not say much. She was afraid someone might hear her voice. They came to a small building with a faded sign. Inside, the air was cooler, and a small container of water sat on a table. Bran poured some into a metal cup and handed it to Luma. She drank slowly. feeling the cold water slide down her throat. It was the first time she had tasted clean water in days. Bran watched her carefully. Water is life here. It's unfair that people like you have so little. Luma looked down. It's not just water. The merchants and Tarnik control everything. If you take without paying, you lose more than water. You lose your future. Bran frowned. That's not right. Suddenly, a voice spoke from the shadows. An older woman stepped forward. Her skin was weathered, but her eyes were sharp and kind. You helped her, the woman said. Do you understand what you are asking? Taking a child like this under your wing means you will answer for her. Bran nodded. I am ready. The woman sighed. Then I am Tenna. I know this world well. Come, I will show you a place where you both can be safe for now. They followed Tenna through a narrow passage that led outside the town walls. The desert stretched wide, but hidden beneath the sand was an old shelter, long forgotten. Inside, it was cool and dark. Pipes and machines, broken and silent, covered the walls. This is the old water station. Tenna said softly. It was used to collect and clean water long ago. The Tarnik shut it down years ago. No one knows it still exists. Bran's eyes lit up. Maybe we can fix it. Give people water again. Tenna smiled sadly. That is why the Tarnik will hunt you if they find out. Luma looked at Bran. Why help me? You don't have to. Bran knelt down to her level. Because someone helped me once, too. I will not let you suffer alone. Luma's eyes filled with tears, but she held her head high. For the next days, Bran worked with Tenna and Luma. He learned to fix machines with old tools and bits of scrap. Luma showed him how to read the old maps and where to find hidden water. Slowly, the machines began to hum. Water flowed again. But the Tarnik were watching. One night, as they worked by dim light, a sharp sound broke the silence. Steps, voices. Luma froze. Bran put a finger to his lips. The door burst open. Tarnik soldiers entered, their eyes cold and hard. You are breaking the law, their leader said. This place is forbidden. You will stop or face punishment. Bran stood tall. We have a right to water. We will not stop. The soldiers moved forward. Bran held his ground. Luma clenched her fists. For the first time, she was not afraid. The leader sneered. This human will pay for his foolishness. But Bran smiled. Maybe. But I am not alone. Behind him, people from the town appeared to others who wanted water, others who wanted freedom. The soldiers hesitated. Luma looked at Bran and knew they were not fighting for just water anymore. They were fighting for their future. The days on Karnath were long and hard. The sun never seemed to give rest. But beneath the surface of the desert, in the old water station, something new was growing hope. Bran worked with Luma, intended to fix the broken machines. The hum of engines and the drip of water were like music after years of silence. The small shelter under the sand became a secret refuge. Luma watched Bran closely. He was different from anyone she had ever known. He did not rush or yell. He was patient. He shared what little water he had. He fixed things others said were beyond repair. One afternoon, Bran taught Luma how to use a small tool to clean a rusted pipe. She struggled at first, her fingers weak and shaky, but Bran smiled gently. Try again. He said, patience and steady hands. After many tries, the pipe was clear. Water began to flow again. Luma laughed, a soft sound she had not made in a long time. Bran looked at her and said, see, water is not just for survival. It can bring life back. Luma nodded, feeling proud. But the world outside the shelter was harsh. The Tarnik ruled with iron fists. They controlled the water, the food, the laws. Anyone who dared to change the order was a threat. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the red dunes, Bran and Luma walked outside the shelter. The sky was painted with colors of fire and gold. For a moment, the heat felt less heavy. Luma spoke softly. Why did the Tarnik do this? Why keep water for themselves? Bran looked at the horizon. Power. When you control water, you control life. But people like you and me, we know that life is meant to be shared. Luma's eyes shone with hope and anger. I want to help. I want to fix things. Bran placed a hand on her shoulder. And you will. But we must be careful. The Tarnak watched everything as days passed. More people came to the shelter. Families who had lost everything. Mechanics who had no tools but willing hands. Children who needed clean water to live. The secret place was growing into a small community. Luma began to teach others what Bran had taught her. How to fix small machines. How to find water in the desert. How to protect themselves. She felt strong for the first time. One morning, while working near the water tanks, Bran saw a small group of Tarnak soldiers on the ridge above the shelter. They were watching. Bran called quietly to Luma. They know. We are here. We must prepare. Luma nodded. We won't let them take our water. Bran smiled, proud of her courage. That night, the shelter was alive with whispers and plans. The people gathered, ready to defend their hope. Bran spoke to the group. We do not want war. We want to live. But if they come, we will protect what we have built. Luma stood beside him, her arm no longer trembling. We will stand together, outside. The desert was dark and silent, but inside the shelter, the light of courage burned bright. The desert sun had barely risen when Bran and Luma heard the faint sound of boots crunching on dry sand from the shelter's entrance. Bran's sharp eyes spotted a group of Tarnak soldiers moving carefully through the dunes. Their black uniforms stood out against the dusty brown landscape. They're coming, Bran whispered. Luma's heart pounded in her chest. The shelter, once a place of hope, now felt fragile under the threat of the Tarnak patrol. Bran gathered the small group inside. We must be ready, he said firmly. They will try to shut us down. We can't let them. The people nodded, fear and determination mixing in their faces as the soldiers approached. Bran and Luma slipped outside to meet them. The soldiers were armed but cautious, their leader holding back a weapon as if unsure what to expect. The leader's voice was cold. This place is forbidden. You are tampering with government property. You must stop. Bran looked the leader in the eye. We are only trying to survive. Water belongs to everyone, not just the Tarnak. The soldier laughed bitterly. Survival does not mean breaking the law. You will be punished. Suddenly, one of the soldiers stepped forward, raising his weapon toward Luma. Bran reacted without thinking. He moved faster than the soldier expected, grabbing his arm and twisting it away. The soldier stumbled and fell. The leader's eyes widened in surprise. Bran stood tall, not backing down. I won't let you hurt her. The soldiers hesitated, unsure if they should fight a human who moved with such strength and calm. Behind Bran, Luma's voice was steady. We do not want to fight, but we will defend ourselves. The leader barked an order, capture them, but the soldiers paused. The growing crowd of people from the shelter appeared behind Bran and Luma, ready to stand together. The soldiers looked at the group and then at Bran. The leader lowered his weapon slowly. This isn't over. With that, the patrol turned and left, their boots kicking up dust as they disappeared over the dunes. Bran breathed deeply. That was close. Luma smiled for the first time in days. We are stronger together. Back inside the shelter, the people celebrated quietly. The water flowed, the machines hummed, and hope filled the air. Bran and Luma knew the Tarnak would return, but they also knew that they would be ready. The sun set slowly over the red dunes, casting long shadows on the desert floor. The sky was painted in deep oranges and purples, but beneath the shifting sands, a hidden world was waking. Luma stood near the entrance of the shelter, watching the last rays disappear. The secret city beneath Karnath's desert was no longer just a shelter. It was becoming a home. Bran was beside her, studying a worn map spread over a metal table. If we fix the old water system, we can help more people, he said. Luma nodded. But it will not be easy. The Tarnak want to keep the water for themselves. Bran smiled slightly. Then we will have to be stronger. Inside the shelter, the sound of dripping water mixed with the hum of machines. The old pipes were worn, but Bran and the others worked day and night, patching leaks, clearing rust, and repairing broken valves. Utena, the older woman who had first shown Bran the shelter, was teaching a group of children how to check water filters. Their eyes were wide with wonder. For many of them, clean water was a story told by their parents, not a reality. This place will change everything, Tennis said quietly to Bran, if it lasts. Bran looked at the faces around him, families, children, mechanics, farmers. People who had lived in fear now found hope in the dusty halls beneath the desert. One day, Luma led Bran to a dusty corner filled with strange machines covered in sand. These are old water collectors, she explained. They can gather moisture from the air. But they are broken. Bran ran his fingers over the cold metal. We can fix these too. We'll need parts and time. Luma smiled. We will find. Both the small community grew, with more people coming from nearby towns, risking the journey to find water and safety. The shelter was no longer just a hiding place, it was the start of something new. But with growth came risk. One evening, as Bran and Luma checked the outer walls, they saw a bright light in the distance. The Tarnuk were coming again, this time with machines and drones. Bran's jaw tightened. They want to stop us. Luma looked at the faces of the people behind her. We will not let them take our water. Double quotes together. They prepared for the fight ahead. The city beneath the sand was no longer just a secret. It was a symbol of promise that even in the harshest places, hope and courage could grow. The sun beat down harder than ever on Karnath's red desert as the Tarnuk machines rolled closer. Dust clouds rose behind their heavy wheels, and the sound of metal scraping against sand echoed through the air. The Tarnuk were coming to crush the secret city beneath the sand. Inside the shelter, Bran moved swiftly. His hands worked to secure the doors, to protect the water tanks, and to organize the people. Luma was by his side, her face set with determination. Everyone, listen. Bran called out, we must protect our home. The Tarnuk want to take our water, but we will not give up. The people nodded, ready to stand together. Outside, the Tarnuk began to set up machines, to dig and destroy. Their drones flew low, scanning the desert for signs of life. The shelter was hidden, but the Tarnuk knew it was there. Bran and Luma prepared traps and alarms. They placed barriers made of scrap metal and old machinery. The community worked quickly, each person playing a part. We fight not just for water, Bran said to Luma quietly, but for freedom. Luma's eyes shone. For all of us. As night fell, the Tarnuk began their attack. Machines dug into the ground, trying to reach the shelter. The people inside held their breath. Suddenly, alarms rang. Lights flashed. The shelter's defenders rushed to their positions. Bran led a group to stop the machines. Luma helped others move water and protect children. The battle was loud and frightening. But the people of the shelter were brave. They fought with everything they had. The Tarnuk soldiers were surprised by the strength and courage of those they tried to control. For the first time, they faced real resistance. Hours passed like this, machines versus humans. Metal against hope. When dawn broke, the desert was quiet again. The shelter still stood. Bran looked around at the tired but smiling faces. We did it, he said. Luma nodded. This is just the beginning. We will keep fighting. Outside, the sun rose over Karnath, shining light on a city beneath the sand where hope refused to die. The desert was quiet under the soft light of dawn. The battle was over, but the fight for Karnath's future had just begun. The people inside the shelter looked tired but proud. They had defended their home and their hope. Bran stood at the entrance, watching the sun rise over the red dunes. The secret city beneath the sand had survived the Tarnuk's attack. The machines were damaged, but the water still flowed. Luma joined him, her eyes bright with a new kind of strength. We did not just save water, she said. We saved a chance to live. Bran smiled. And now, we must build a future where no child fears losing an arm for stealing water. The community gathered in the shelter's main hall. Tennis spoke. First, her voice calm but firm. The Tarnuk will come again. They control the desert and the towns. But we have shown them that we are not afraid. People nodded. Mothers held their children close. Fathers looked at each other with hope. Luma stood up. We have something stronger than their machines. We have courage. We have each other, Bran. Step forward. Tomorrow, we will send messengers to nearby towns. We will tell them about the water, about the shelter. We will invite them to join us. A murmur of excitement passed through the crowd. One of the children raised a small hand. Will they be afraid? Bran knelt down. Some will be. But when they see we stand together, they will find courage too. Days turned into weeks. The secret city grew. New people came, farmers, teachers, families all hungry for water and hope. Bran and Luma worked side by side, fixing machines and teaching others how to find water and protect themselves. The shelter was no longer a secret but a symbol. The Tarnak sent patrols, but they no longer dared attack openly. The people of the desert had found a new strength. One evening, as the sun set behind the dunes, Bran and Luma stood together, looking at the sky full of stars. Do you think we can change Karnath? Luma asked softly. Bran smiled. We already are. One drop of water, one act of kindness, can change a world. Luma took his hand. Thank you for saving me. Bran shook his head. You saved yourself. I just helped. They looked out over the desert, where the future was no longer dry and empty, but full of life and hope. The arm that was almost lost had been saved, and with it, the promise of a new dawn for all.